aspect of it, I feel like you're looking at me like, oh no, you have to work all the time at this stuff.
Oh, really? That's your projection, Mr. Stilwell.
Absolutely.
No, sometimes there's ecstaticness at the work. The idea of work can get me going. I'm more learning how to play. I'm more sort of inclined towards doing the work, and I'm more trying to learn how to play. So actually the idea of it as work isn't terrible to me. I'm like used to it.
It's your work.
But the idea of play, like that's maybe where the work is for me.
Oh well.
I mean, this is the work. Yeah, this is the work.
The idea of play is where the work is for me. Quote.
Oh no. I'm being recorded.
Yeah.
No, it's very beautiful actually to think that this work is actually play, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's very beautiful.
Lila.
So the last thing to say, I think, about the diamond cutter before we move on to Vinaya is, the idea that I just want to be happy and I'll just wish myself into happiness. I want to be happy and I'll think happy thoughts. It just doesn't work. We know that from experience, right? We have stuff that comes up and pops into our head. We have emotions that come up, we have thoughts that come up, and we don't control them when they arise, caused by past karma, past deeds, past energies we've accumulated. And so our reality is determined by what arises, perceptually for us. And so we have to collect the energy, the karmic seeds, the impulse, the habituation that arises as joy and happiness, goodness and virtue and paradise. That's the only way that we'll experience it. It isn't somewhere else. It's what arises within us and is projected onto the stuff around us, right? So, important last point to make. We're talking about emptiness and the Diamond Cutter Sutra is that the karma implicitly goes with it. If everything is a blank screen, if things don't have any identity of their own, if things don't have any nature of their own, if they are a projection, then we as the projector have to be projecting what we want to see. And we have to set up the real, we have to imprint the real, we have to expose the real so that it projects what we want to see. That's it. Okay, so then as we go into Vinaya, J.S. Kappa says, there's this idea that some people have that you don't have to keep certain vows, well, first of all, I guess I would take a step back and say that from a bigger picture perspective, the point of vows is to be ethical and pure and holy. And so vows are not a set of strictures. Vows are the things which let you fly. They are the instruction set around what is virtuous and what is not virtuous, what is beneficial and what is harmful, and how to be a more pure, realized holy being. If you do these things and you restrain yourself from these things, your life will get better and better, and your reality will get better and better, and you will be holier and holier and more saintly and all the rest, right? So if you keep your vows, if you keep your ethics, that's the outcome. They get you in vows, get you in line, okay? And it goes, and you start with basic vows, the 10 restraining oneself from 10 non-virtues, not killing, not stealing, etc., right? Which are very crude, and as you get good at those, and as you become quite proficient in that, you move on to more subtle negative behaviors. I won't ever, not help someone. I was trying to think of a better way to say it. I'll always help someone whenever I can. I'll always, give whenever it's needed if there's any way I possibly can, etc. So anyway, there's this idea that certain of the vows don't need to be kept and others do. And J.S. Kappa says this crazy idea. He says, look, to think that some ethics don't matter is like wiping out if you live your life in a way where you think some ethics don't matter and you can ignore them, it's like planting crops, and then having the little tender shoots come up and having them just obliterated, by a blanket of hail, I mean, you're just wiping out any potential goodness. The seeds you plant will never bear fruit. They'll be destroyed by your behavior. And so he says, you have to keep all of your ethics. You can think of it as one level building upon another, almost like the stories of a house. The first story is your basic Praktimoksha vows, right? Second story would be your Bodhisattva vows, which are built on Praktimoksha vows. And the third story would be your Tantric vows, which are built on Bodhisattva vows, right? And in fact, each is simply a refinement and a more subtle and sophisticated application of the prior. So to say, I don't have to keep crude virtues, to say, I don't have to stop behaving in crude negative ways. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I will stop behaving in subtle negative ways. It's kind of irrational, right? I can engage in crude negativity, but not subtle negativity. It's kind of irrational, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're saying if you say, I'll keep my high vows, not my low vows. I'll do all the worst negative stuff, but not the subtle negative stuff. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Sounds crazy when you say it like that.
Well, yeah, it is crazy. And it's a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of vows and how one becomes enlightened, if anyone is expressing that and thinking that way. Anytime a teacher or a practitioner comes along and says, oh, I don't do those vows don't matter. It's like saying, well, you can collect some negative karma. It doesn't matter if you collect some negative karma. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, the higher vows are just Praktimoksha vows, and lower vows coming at it from a different angle with more subtlety and sophistication, right? All right. So, as we go into the different vows, we can highlight some of them. We have one Bodhisattva vow that we're supposed to break in a certain circumstance. If you're a high practitioner, and what does it say? It says, Jason Koppa's commentary says, if you're a bodhisattva who's reached high levels of realization, then you keep this vow. If you're not up to that level, then go easy, right? Right? There's a bodhisattva vow that says, look, break your other bodhisattva vows if you need to. And so, it's easy to liberally quote that whenever it's convenient, whenever you want to do something and you don't want to stop yourself. But the point here is that you only break this vow with high discipline and high purpose. For example, if someone is about to be mugged, and they escape and ask you to hide them, and the mugger comes and says, where are they? And lie and say, I don't know. That's valid time to break your vow of not lying, because you prevented someone from being beaten up, right? And so obviously you want to help someone, and you have to have the understanding and the training to say, I have to be willing to go for the higher purpose and let go of the lower vow. Right? But you have to have training, and you have to have understanding to be able to do that. And if you're not up to that level, never mind. Maitreya makes a comment on what you should do if you hear Buddhist teachings that you can't accept right now. And Shakyamuni Buddha as well said, look, question me, challenge me. Don't just listen to me. Don't just buy whatever I'm selling, right? Only accept things, only listen, and only abide by and live by what I say if it makes sense to you, if you thoroughly tested it out, right? Maitreya says, learn how to shelve things. Don't reject Buddhist teachings. Don't reject spiritual teachings because you don't understand them or because you don't buy them. So very important not to reject spiritual teachings, but to say, you know what, it doesn't resonate with me right now. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe this is logical. Maybe it's completely illogical. I have no idea. But I'm going to just set it over there and not worry about it, not make it part of my life and my practice. And it's over there, and maybe I'll come back to it at some point and see if it makes sense, some other time. And that's an appropriate approach, and it's very inappropriate to say, that's wrong spiritual teaching, and that's a crazy spiritual teaching, because frankly, most of the time we don't have the insight to know. Keep a list of things you're not sure about, and check in every now and then with other teachers and with other Sangha members. Don't go to one extreme of listening to and buying whatever any teacher says, any monk or nun or lama or dharma teacher, don't just buy what everybody's selling. Don't just be like, oh, so-and-so said it, so it's true. Right? Don't do that. That's one extreme. The other extreme is just constantly saying, no, 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 that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Right? So put it in the box, right? All right. Then we had, in addition to the 64 bodhisattva vows, we had the extra add-ons, right? Like the 4 white deeds and the 4 black deeds. If you remember those. One that was very sort of special and very important, and is actually a segue to higher vows, to secret teachings, is to see everyone as the teacher themselves, the capital T teacher, right? To think that everyone we meet in every circumstance that we engage in is a holy being, some high spiritual being who is trying to lead me to my enlightenment, right? Everybody's enlightened with me. Everybody's a holy being except me. And everybody I meet is trying to help me in some way, whether it's hurting me or pushing my buttons. If they're making it hard, they're pushing my buttons and they're pissing me off. You have a partner, you have a wife, you have a husband. It's just like, God, I'm so sick of this person. They're so annoying. There's this endless challenge, endless problem. Well, this vow is to say, see them as a holy being who's putting you in your stuff, so that you can work it out and you can get over your negativities and get over your negative projections and your mental afflictions and come to terms with them and evolve spiritually. Right? Very hard work, right? But a very holy teaching and very profound teaching, right? So, okay, typical ways that people break their bodhisattva vows. Main one is what?
Not knowing them.
Don't know what they are. I mean, easy way to break. It's like, does Mr. Karma care if you don't know your vows and you break them? No. It's like laws of karma are like laws of gravity. If I didn't know that the piano falling from the second story window was going to hit me on the head and smash me, will it stop it from doing that? No. Gravity is at work whether I know about it or not. Whether I understand it or not. Karma is the same way. If you don't know your vows and you break them, karma is still at work. All right, so it's like that. It's the law. All right, first Panchen Lama goes into 6 major kinds of suffering. That when we get into it, we get into the realms of existence, right? Death in the realms of existence. And they go into the hell realms, the hot hells, the cold realms, and the hungry ghosts, and all these things, right? And we can't proceed to see those things directly. And the first Panchen Lama is like, let's talk about the suffering of this realm. It is this very beautiful explanation. Let's just talk about our sufferings that we can't confirm, okay? Let's just focus on the stuff that we know about, right? So, the beautiful description of the 6 sufferings we can confirm right now, which is probably why most of us are here, right? First is, nothing is certain, nothing is fixed, right? Everything fluctuates. Somebody we think we're going to be great friends with for a long time becomes distant, or loses interest, or grows separate, or becomes a problem, right? Somebody you think you don't like becomes really sweet, and somebody you're close to. You can't trust people you're in a relationship with. Your closest relationship's sour. Things we see beautiful today become terrible down the road. And we think it's their fault. They did something wrong. It's my fault. I did something wrong. Why did this happen? What's wrong with me? Why did my relationship go bad? Why did my friend lose interest in me? Why aren't they my friend anymore? Why did I lose the job? Why did my income change? Why did I, have a great 10-year run and now I've got a bad 10-year run? Why? It's because of the nature of this realm. It's a broken realm. Okay? It's the nature of karma. Karma wears out, and therefore our experiences fluctuate. So it's not because people are evil. It's not because someone's out to get us. It's because karma wears out, and therefore things end and fluctuate. And so, that's just what this realm is. It's one of the sufferings of this realm. There is no certainty, and there never will be, and it doesn't matter what we do. As an ordinary human being, there will be no certainty. Not possible. Okay, then the second thing is no matter how much money we get, how many teachings we get, what nice place we get, what nice car we get, what nice relationship we get, we're never satisfied. The mind is never satisfied, right? You could be, if only I could be around the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I'd be happy, it'd be wonderful forever. You're around him for a couple of weeks and he seems pretty ordinary. He picks his nose and he coughs and he sneezes and he goes to the bathroom and, has grumpy days and, gets sick and all the rest, right? And it's just the nature of this mind is to normalize everything, right? I remember Holy Ken Rinpoche was one of the highest He's probably the highest Lama in the United States by a large majority, you know. And he graduated from the Tantric College, and before I was born, it was 1957. He was running the Tantric College in 1957, you know, before I was even born. You know, and the Dalai Lama sent him here. You know, he's 1 out of 10,000 monks. He graduated first in his class, and you know, and then he's teaching here, you know, regularly for 30 years. And people are like, myself included, is like, yeah, I don't feel like going. I don't feel like an hour and a half bus ride. It's too far. It's too much of a hassle. Too much of a pain. You know, people want to go to India to see the Dalai Lama. Or people want to go, you know, wherever for some special initiation. But guess what? You have the highest Lama in the West teaching regularly. He's like, yeah, I'd rather go to movies. You know, everything becomes normal. Everything becomes ordinary. It's like, oh, he's giving initiation this week. Yeah, I did it last time. It's not that important. I think maybe I'll do it next year. You know? So it's just the nature of the mind. And the human mind can't be satisfied, and everything special becomes normal. The mind takes whatever is holy and sacred and profound and makes it mundane, unfortunately. And it makes it boring and normal within a short period of time. And it's a great danger to tantric practice, you know, the highest practice. You know, when we start to have glimpses of holy, sacred things, you know, ripening and happening, and the mind wants to make it normal and make it ordinary, you know, and it shuts down tantric practice because the mind wants everything to just be plain. All right, so we won't go through them all.
The mind wants everything to just be what?
Ordinary. Normal. Ordinary human life. If someone said to you, you could be around a holy being all day, every day, right? What would you want to do? And if you did it, what would that be like? Would you want to be around a holy being who is totally pure and virtuous 24/7? It's like walking at your side, making you look bad all the time. And they're not making you look bad.
That way.
They're not making you look bad. They're just there existing. Okay? They're just there, being perfect and pure. And you're walking beside them going like, I'm less, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, you know. So the mind has the ordinary human mind has a very hard time going to purity and accepting purity and sticking with purity and valuing purity, right? And in fact, it's much more comfortable with what it's used to, the ordinary.
Just thinking about like idealizing somebody that you're in love with.
It's called marriage, right?
And then
it's called marriage followed by divorce, right? But that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly it. And so take that to a spiritual level. Take the standard marriage relationship experience and not bump it up to a spiritual level. You meet a perfect holy being who's like, oh my God, I just met a tantric angel. You know, I met manifestation of a holy being. And then you're around them. And then it's just like, they're really annoying me. And then you click a different card. And then it's a different relationship. It's the children. Dad.
He's not doing what I tell him to do.
No, she's just saying he doesn't want to go to bed until I come home because he's having feelings.
That's the 7th link of the dependent origination. Tell him to go to the 6th.
So it's a very profound topic. It's a very important, sublime, profound topic, right? What if you met a holy being, right? And they appeared to you validly as a holy being? What would your mind do? would your mind start to doubt itself? Would your mind start to say, no, that wasn't really true. No, that didn't really happen. No, I think, oh, well, that was a year ago or 5 years ago. It doesn't matter anymore because it was 5 years ago. The natural tendency of the human mind is to discount holy things and to just get on with an ordinary life, you know? I mean, I remember when Holy Geshe Michael did his first 3-year retreat, it must have been 2000 or 2001 or something like that, right? One of the quiet retreat teachings. And so they were blindfolded, we had to walk him off the stage, and one day I was one of the people who was picked to walk him back to his yurt, and it was windy, and it was cold, and so he was blindfolded, so I went to sort of, wrap my coat around him, and he was blindfolded. He was just kind of like chuckled, and he just kind of was like, and then it just gets a tremendous burst of energy and heat, from it, traveling throughout, my system. And it's like, wow, that's pretty intense, But then the mind just goes, oh, well, whatever, right? Doesn't matter, so what, right? And then 3 months later, it's like, he's such a pain in the ass, right? Right? I mean, why does it do all that crazy stuff? Why does it behave that way? It's so annoying, it's such a problem, it's so difficult, right? So this is our dilemma. This is tangibly, practically, specifically, our dilemma as we try to do high holy practice, right? There will be karmas which ripen into profound experiences and valid perceptions of a human being or a tantric being or whatever, meditative being or whatever, right? And then what? And then the normal ordinary mind makes it unimportant and mundane and irrelevant. And then
So part of the practice is to keep it holy.
That's why one of the vows, the Bodhisattva vow.
it's one of the sufferings. So if you look at it from both sides, it's the second suffering of the human realm, is that the mind brings everything down and makes it normal. And the mind can never be satisfied.
That we're never satisfied.
Whatever it gets, it isn't enough. It isn't adequate. It doesn't satisfy the mind, right? I mean, think about the Buddha not doing miracles, right? It's like, why do miracles? People are never satisfied. They just want more miracles, right? I mean, the mind is never satisfied, right? And here we are. And you can be a great high practitioner, having beautiful holy ripenings, and the mind is not satisfied. And the mind wants more, and the mind discounts and says, let's go to the movies, right? And so that's the downside. The upside is there's this incredible opportunity every time there's a ripening like this to supercharge one's practice by jumping on it and saying, wow, this is this amazing holy ripening, and let me engage it properly with correct view, correct understanding of what's going on to collect the most powerful, profound karma possible, which will ripen in the future. And that is highest practice. Highest practice is jumping on every little ripening possible, or even when there is no ripening, is jumping on every opportunity possible to collect the most powerful, profound karma that will ripen in your future, and to have enough education and insight and understanding that when those seeds do pop and those perceptions do pop, that we don't discount them and we don't write them off and we don't say that was nothing. Because frankly, one of the mantras is there's a Sanskrit term, Vikritana, which means goes either way. It can be this or that. Is it this or is it that? Right? And so initially, when you begin to perceive these things, which is it? You don't have enough karma to see something completely pure, right? See a little bit, a little glimpse, right? Oh, something, it could be holy. Was it holy? Might have been holy. Not sure if it was holy. Was it ordinary? Was it holy? Right? What you do in that moment collects the karma for the future. You see? Very important. To then work with that. And so, as we are engaging in this spiritual practice, and as the seeds start to ripen, it's like the fluctuations occur, right? I mean, everything's fluctuating all the time. Perceptions are shifting and fluctuating all the time. When holy seeds ripen, so that there's a glimmer of a holy thing, right? Or a pure ripening, it lasts for a brief time, and it may even be questionable. But as one's purity and one's vow keeping progresses, it becomes more and more obvious, right? And it's, it starts off as, I'm not sure what that was. I'm not sure if that was ordinary or holy, right? But if you keep up that pure view, and if you keep up that correct view, right, then it starts to shift and it starts to change, right?
What's the Sanskrit term in the Vakritana? Ah, okay. Thank you.
So that mantra.
Thank you. I just say Vikirtana. Okay.
That certain practice that someone has there with the mantra associated.
Yeah. No, I'd never heard it pronounced that way. Sorry.
My Sanskrit may not be up to snuff. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So, don't think that there's some other realm that you go to. Don't think that there's some other realm that you travel to. As you collect the karma and the causes to have different perceptions, you will start to have different perceptions here and now. Wherever you are. There's not a tantric realm somewhere else. There's not a paradise somewhere else. It's not that you climb into a rocket ship and you get there on the other side of Pluto. It's not that you have to physically travel to some other geographic location. Okay? It is all based on perception. Your paradise will be with you wherever you are when you have those perceptions. Right? You're not going anywhere. You're not packing a bag and you're not traveling. You're changing the nature of your perceptions and your projections, and therefore your reality. Okay? So, as you go through your day, as you keep your vows, as you become pure and more virtuous, as your projections become pure and more virtuous, you start to have glimpses. And so it's like on the old Star Trek shows when they're on the transporter, and the transporter is phasing in and phasing out, and they're sort of walking on, and they're sort of not, You see a little bit, and then they're there, and then they're not, right? Initially. And then they fix the transporter beam. Scotty fixes the transporter beam, and then they're really there, and you're like, right? And so it's like that, you say, oh, I think you're a holy being, aren't you? And they're like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. You're like, I'm pretty sure you're a holy being. And they're like, no, I don't know what you're seeing, but that's not what I'm seeing. And, and then collect the karma, and, eventually they admit it. Eventually they're like, all right, well, maybe I am a holy being. And eventually the karma shifts, and they're like, okay, I am a holy being. Right? But it's a process, and it's not steady state. It's not like, so is it the case that you collect the karma that ripens, all of a sudden it goes poof, a little glowing body of ruby light that walks around with you for 20 years. Maybe you collect the karma for that to ripen like that. Maybe not. Maybe you collect the karma where you meet him briefly for 10 seconds, or a minute, or in meditation only, or in your sleep, or whatever. You have a sense that a lama is that, or whatever, right? So those karmas ripened, brought the result, and wore out. Collect some more. Right? If you want them to ripen, collect some more. The more you collect them, the more they'll ripen. So it's like that, okay? But you have to be clear that the only way you're going to get to tantric paradise is by thinking like that, and acting like that, and collecting that karma as much as possible, as consistently as possible, right? And then every year that goes by gets better and better, and finally you change into a different kind of body and mind, and then you're in a different realm. And you're not getting on the spaceship, it's where you are. So, I think the other thing, I'm inclined to stop there. I think so. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Keeping your vows, learning your vows, keeping your vows is how you accomplish this. And that's why we're here, right? And that's how we get these things to happen. Just want to see if there's anything else. Right, just to relate, you know, it's interesting. Geshe Michael's terminology, when he talks about it, he says, you know, you start by eliminating the biggest jerks in your life, right? And you get rid of them. And then you work on the medium people, you know, the medium pains. And you work on the people who are mildly irritating, right? By behaving appropriately towards them. Not getting angry, practicing perfections. And, you know, and then people start to, he calls it shade. They start to shade into tantric deities, right?
It's not the reverse. That you are nice to people who are mildly irritating. You have to like jump to the people.
Generally, they say start with your biggest affliction. Work on the biggest nuts first. I mean, you know, if you want to practice, you can practice on the easy ones. Master Shantideva says, you know, start your giving with carrots and potatoes, right, and then work your way up. So you can go with it. But the point is that you're eliminating. Think about what we're talking about. If you're having huge negativities, those are huge negative karmas. Huge problems in the form of people or job or whatever. Those are large negative karmas ripening. Right? Serious negativities that you're carrying. So you want to clean up your biggest negative obstacles first. Because to get to the point of this kind of subtle pure view, valid perception and ripening, you have to pretty much clean up the big negativities. Right? I mean, I'm not going to try to quantify it, but the point is it requires a fairly subtle mind and fairly pure karma to have this kind of perception ripening. Right? So, you know, we're working our way through it, if you will. I mean, perhaps even wrong of me to say, you know, you have to do your biggest negativities first, but one has to be able to have those types of subtle, profound, holy seeds ripening without something blocking it, without those negative obstacles blocking it. So just thinking in those terms, right? And when those seeds do ripen, they tend to start to, he described it, shade into tantric deities. They don't turn into a tantric deity, you know, Sunday and then stay there, you know. I mean, as he describes it, you know, he says, you know, they shade in and out. It's not like, you know, all of a sudden Sunday they pop in as a deity and they're like that for the rest of the week. You know, maybe you get a glimpse on Sunday and maybe, you know, then they're normal people for the rest of the week. You're in a bit of a pain, and then by Friday you get another glimpse again. You know, as the karma shifts, right? So, and finally you start to see them that way most of the time, because your karma is forcing you to see it that way, and you understand it, and they don't admit it because you don't have enough karma for them to admit it, as he describes it. You could say, I think you're a holy being, and they believe, no, what are you talking about? You don't have the karma to hear them say, yeah, I'm a holy being. But by continuing to practice and think that, when you collect the karma, for them to admit they're a holy being, right? And eventually the karma gets so sweet that they do admit it, right? And so it's like that. And so that's how he describes it. So, so that's why we're here, and that's why we're studying these things, and that's the point. The purpose of all this is to bring ourselves, is to reach a state. The reason why we're here is so that we can clean our minds and clean our beings, so that our normal, ordinary perceptions, our regular, routine, everyday, ordinary perceptions are pure and holy, and the expression of the Dharmakaya, the expression of wisdom and bliss, so that every perception is a blissful experience, so that every being we meet is a holy being, right? As a natural, ordinary, routine perception. Right? That's where we want to get to. How do we get there? We get there by becoming pure beings ourselves and projecting purely. That's it. So.
Thank you. Sashia Pukhi Jishin Metoptra Rira Lingshi Nyinde Gampadi Sangye Shindu Mite Guargi Dropin Namda Shinla Chuparsho Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamninya Sayami Gawadi Gawokun Sunam Yeshe Tsoksokshin Sunam Yeshe Lejunwe Dampa Kuni Toparsho.
By the power of our deeds and by the power of our aspiration, by the power of the truth of dependent origination, which can never fail, may we quickly attain ultimate reality. May we quickly purify every negative impulse. May we quickly exist in a pure realm where every living being is holy.
Thanks for teaching, John.
Thank you too.
So I'll pick up again in September and have a nice summer break. Meditate a lot. Be virtuous. Keep your vows.